It's back to school time, and while exciting, it can be tough on families. Fox 9 is helping you get your kids back into a routine and on a sleep schedule. We're also talking with the experts and learning how to get your children to be successful in school.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Carlson. Thank you for joining us for this Fox 9 Community Connection special. It's another school year, and there's a laundry list of things to make sure that kids are doing, from homework to extracurricular activities to their well-being. We begin this 30-minute special with what we're calling Back to School 101. Fox 9's Karen Scullin sat down with an elementary school principal to help us navigate the new year.
Patrick Smith joins us now. He is the principal of Basswood Elementary in Maple Grove. Thanks for being with us.
Welcome.
Let's start talking about routine. For a lot of us, to get back after summer into some sort of routine is really difficult. How important do you think it is?
I think it's very important. Like you said, the students have just spent the whole summer with different schedules, going to bed late, sleeping in longer than normally, and so it's getting them in that routine of getting a good night's sleep, enough rest so that they're nice and restful for the next day, and getting up and having enough time every morning to have a good breakfast and to get ready and not feel like they're always rushing out the door to get to the bus or get into the car for the carpool. So establishing that routine at night so that they get a good night's rest and are getting up and not rushing in the morning just is a really good start to the day.
And I imagine you probably noticed a difference in students in a few weeks when they finally do get back into those routines. A lot more success there, I imagine.
Absolutely. It's that first week of school or so, you can tell that by the end of the day the kids are tired and they're getting that routine of being at school too for a long period of time. So after a good week or two, you start seeing the kids getting into that routine even at school. So that's helpful to have that home routine as well.
Yeah, and speaking of a week or two, now the homework's coming in. Some teachers, of course, do assign homework, some don't. But if they do, you have to get your kids to do it, which can be difficult. I have one that I have to drag through his homework. Any advice there?
It's talking to them about homework prior to, and there's a lot of different research out there, and one piece of research talks about the amount of time of work that you want your student to do at home. And if you're in second grade, if it's 10 minutes per grade, second graders would have 20 minutes of homework. Fifth graders would have 50 minutes of homework. And if you keep it at that, I think that's going to be helpful to know that they're not spending all evening doing homework. And the critical part is getting them out to play, getting them out to have physical activity as well. So kind of balancing that, maybe break up the evening with maybe 20 minutes of reading, and then they get to play for some period of time, have some dinner, and then finish up the rest of the homework later on. So maybe chunk it up a little bit at night.
What if your child kind of gets stuck on something, a problem or something that is part of the homework? Is it okay to leave it blank?
Absolutely.
And ask a teacher for help? And
that's exactly what I would recommend is don't spend too much time on one problem, one area of homework that they're really struggling on. They just spent over 6 hours at school learning. So any time they come home with homework, it's really about practice.
Sure.
It's not new learning. So they really get stuck on something, I'd circle it, move on, do what you can for that night, and then ask the teacher the next day.
All right, and I love this next topic, talking to our kids about their school day. Sometimes I think we all get these one-word answers. How was school? Oh, it's fine. How do we get more out of our kids here?
Ask them specific questions. What did you learn in math today? What was your favorite part about reading? Just being very specific with your child will allow them to maybe go deeper into it rather than saying, how was your day? Good. So the more specific you can be, the more detailed, and ask questions about specific topics. And then you know what your child loves. If there's a strength, an area of strength for them at school, focus on that. If they love science, what did you learn in science today? And
I always ask best part of the day, worst part of the day. That's probably a good idea, I would think.
Yep, yeah, it is good to talk about if there's any struggles they had for the day, if there's a part of the day that they really didn't like, well, why? And maybe there's just having that discussion about it will help them through that process of.
All right, and finally, I want to get to the importance of parent involvement. Maybe a little volunteer time, those conferences. How important is that?
Very important. I mean, you as a parent, you're at home, you're working with homework, you know so much about your own child, and so that communication with the teacher is a good partnership because the teacher knows your child as much as they have them during the day, but you know your child because they're your child. So having that connection with the teacher, go to the carnivals, go to parent-teacher conferences, get involved in the PTA, PTOs. Any way you can get involved in the school, your child sees that, and it's a really good connection to have.
I was about to say, your child knows you care then.
They do.
All right, Patrick Smith, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Also, bullying can stand in the way of a positive school year. I sat down with Julie Herzog, the director of Pacer's National Bullying Prevention Center, to find out how to protect your child and what to do if you find out your child is the one doing the bullying. All right, Julie, thank you so much for being with us. Bullying is a big topic, a concern of many parents, teachers, administrators. how bad is the problem? Because now we have social media and images are lasting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a statistic that 1 out of every 4 students will be bullied this year. And I oftentimes think that that statistic doesn't even take into account what happens online, because that's really what's happening at school.
All right, so what is happening with kids? Bullying is different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So what are some of the issues, and how can parents look out for things that are happening with their kids?
Well, we always advise parents, if you think that your child might be being bullied, and that could be being bullied at school or online or in the community, but the first thing that you want to do is, have that conversation with them, have that open-ended conversation, find out what's happening in their lives. And if they are being bullied, it's so important that for us as parents to kind of check our response to that, because I think oftentimes, there's a lot of emotion that goes with it, but we want to make sure that we're supporting our child and that we're telling them, you're not alone in this. We're going to be here for you. We're going to help you learn how to advocate for yourself. And then the next step is really developing a plan and working through, some steps with your child to say, number 1, what's been happening to you? And number 2, how would you like to see it be different? And ask them specifically what they'd like to see changed and who they want to see involved. And it's not about the kids fixing the situation, but it's about them having a voice in it, because then it's much more likely to stop.
All right, a lot of kids don't want to tell their parents because they're worried that it's going to make it worse. That if, the parent tells the principal and then the other child gets in trouble. So how do you figure this out when your child does not want to tell you?
Well, absolutely, and a lot of kids don't tell, but you want to be in communication with your teacher from the start of the year, especially for the younger kids, because the teachers are with them for a good part of the day. They know what's happening, and so get that educator-parent relationship going right away when the school starts, and so that there's lines of communication open, because they'll notice the difference in your child too.
What if your child is the one who's bullying others? What do you do? I mean, how do you recognize that, first of all? Because you may not see that at home.
Yeah.
And you might get a call from another parent.
Yeah, and you may not see that at home, because you may not see your child with that, exhibiting that behavior. But I think the first thing is to know that bullying is about behavior. So often kids get labeled as a bully. And when we do that, we take away that opportunity to say, this is about behavior, and behavior can change. And I think for so many parents, they'll say, the first reaction is like, that can't be my child that's doing that. Or, oh my gosh, my child is doing that. And so check that emotional response, and then be talking to your child and find out what's happening, because oftentimes kids don't know that their behavior is having such a negative impact on other kids. So it's important to have that conversation, and then teach them empathy and respect, and let them know and set consequences. So important.
October is National Bullying Prevention Month. So what's happening in schools, and what can we do as parents and as teachers?
10-year anniversary this year of National Bullying Prevention Month. So it started in 2006, it's now 2016. Just an amazing time to get involved. And when we think about the history of bullying, for 10 years ago, we were looking at this as just an accepted rite of childhood passage. And we know now that there's serious implications for it, for both kids' physical and emotional health, their education. So get involved. Come to pacer.org/bullying. Visit our website. And also a great way to get involved is Unity Day, which is Wednesday, October 19th. Has a very simple call to action: wear and share the color orange.
All right. Mark that in the calendar.
Yes.
Thank you. Julie Herzog with the Pacer National Bullying Prevention Center, the director there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us.
Thank you.
And when we come back, sports injuries and kids. More and more of them are getting hurt at younger ages. How to make sure that they don't get hurt or burned out, all while having a good time. But first, did you know that on average, we parents spend about $500 per child for back-to-school needs? That includes clothing, supplies, and electronics. And get this, consumers who planned ahead and shopped before August spent 26% more than those who waited. We'll be right back. Well, competition in youth sports has led to kids specializing in sports at an earlier and earlier age. This can lead to a lot of overuse injuries by the time they reach high school. A study by the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine says more than half of all injuries are from overuse. And that study goes on to say that kids grow at different rates, which makes it tough for parents and coaches to gauge what their progress should be. The group urges kids to try many different sports when they are young. Welcome back to this Fox 9 Community Connection special. I'm Kelsey Carlson. We're focusing on the new school year, and sports are a big part of the schedule for many families. Twin Cities Orthopedics has been partnering with a number of local high schools for the last 2 years to teach kids how to cross-train and stay injury-free.
There's no way to predict an injury, but schools are trying harder to keep kids safer.
I think we do a better job with the heads up from the USA Football and teaching how to properly tackle and how to properly block.
Edina football head coach Reed Boltman says, for instance, there is less contact in practice, more rehab when a kid does get hurt.
We have to do a good job of rehabbing and be smart with the kid. And when they're ready back for play, then we let them come back and play, but they're not going to step on the field for practice or a game until they're physically and mentally ready to go.
Junior Henry Brooks was one of those kids.
It's like a 6-month recovery, so I couldn't do any winter sport.
He dislocated his shoulder in a non-sports related accident, but with football, he kept getting re-injured. One surgery and a lot of time off, and now he wears extra gear.
Well, I'm wearing this Sully brace right now, and it's a double Sully brace, the bilateral, and what it does is it restricts my range of motion, so I can't put myself in a position where I can dislocate my shoulder.
So he has that, and one concerned mom protecting him.
After the game against Eden Prairie, I looked at my phone, and my mom had texted me several times, "Did I see your shoulder come out?" So, yeah.
Beyond worry, parents are an important part of injury prevention. Kids who do the same sport year-round, year after year, they risk overuse injuries.
Kids are in more structured activities, so we need to be smart about what we let them do and how frequent. Certainly has an impact on injury. An example of that would be, let's say, an overhead athlete that might be playing baseball but also football. We really try and get them just away from any of their throwing activities.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Greg Lervik says rest periods are good for those growing muscles. And any sport can put an athlete at risk for injury, not just contact sports like football.
There's several things that you can do. Number one would just be probably the approach of cross-training, doing different activities, having appropriate rest, rehydration, replenishing periods where kids can recover from their activity while they're in season, but also in the off season. Allow them time for their tissues that are maturing and still growing. They have adequate time to rest and recover in the off season as well.
Dr. Lervik isn't just seeing the aftermath of an injury. He's out there on the field with the team on Friday nights. Twin Cities Orthopedic partners with 9 area high schools to make injury prevention part of the training plan.
We in the business, like everything else, we want kids to be safe, and we hope that it's a quiet night and you can just enjoy being on the field and enjoying the game. But you have to be diligent and aware. And that's what working with the athletic trainers on the field and us as providers, it's really key that you're always keeping your awareness up and your antenna up.
Mindfulness is becoming a larger social and emotional tool in classrooms across the country. It is helping to cut down stress for teachers and students while also helping to build a sense of community. Fox 9's Tom Butler learns more about it from a licensed school counselor who's working to integrate it into her school.
Joining me now is Becky Paris from Basswood Elementary in Maple Grove. Nice to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, we're talking about better academic success, and one of those things that you're trying to do to achieve that is something called mindfulness. So tell us what mindfulness is all about.
Mindfulness is really an approach, a way to address mental, physical, and emotional needs of our staff and students. It's really a program that we're implementing to start taking a look at building some of those qualities that we're looking for our students and staff. We really, in education, it's an emotionally based institution. We bring who we are to education, but yet we haven't had a way up to this point to really cultivate some of those emotional traits, such as focus, attention, thoughtfulness, compassion, awareness. Things that we know really help us to be successful as educators and help our students to be successful.
So when it comes to mindfulness in this approach, let's say a teacher maybe has some students who are acting up throughout the day that might start to wear on that teacher. So is this a way to get that teacher to come to grips with that and then hopefully achieve better success once they know how to deal with that through this mindfulness approach?
Absolutely. Through a regular practice, what our teachers are learning is that really cultivating that regular practice, it really kind of changes how we're wired in our approach to dealing with stress. So, for instance, if we have a student who is emotionally reactive in a classroom or having behavior issues, we really have a way to interact with that student in a more reflecting approach. We can kind of step back and be more curious about what the behavior is about, and really be thoughtful in our approach. How are we emotionally interacting in that moment? Really the core of it is about practicing and being intentional about staying present in that moment. We're not stressed out about what we've done in the past, or really not reflecting about what we're worried about next period or what I need to move on to with my class. It's really about being centered and being able to kind of handle that experience.
Right, and it sounds like kind of an organic way of doing this. Is it the same approach for the student that you would have for the teacher, or is it a little different, since in this case they would be a little younger, certainly?
Actually, the unique thing about mindfulness, it's an approach that is similar to everybody. It's really about how we're wired as a human being. So once we teach ourselves how to address our emotional needs, we model that, and we're able to address those with our students.
Right, and how has this impacted both your teachers and your students? What kind of success have you seen?
Really, it's unbelievable. Since we've begun this work, Patrick Smith, our principal, has really initiated this innovative approach in our program, and we're collaborating with the University of Minnesota. Jen Najelski is doing some work training our teachers this year. We're partnering with Mindful Schools, so we're bringing it right into the classroom with our students. Our administrators are getting trained on how to be mindful leaders, really how to embody these things and help direct our teachers in this approach. So I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is the community that we're building. Our school district is coming together, our school is coming together, our PTO, our teachers. We really feel a sense of community, and students are feeling it. Ultimately, we're here to serve students, and they're recognizing it.
Well, that's great. Academic success is what it's all about. Well, thank you for being here. Becky Parse, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You bet.
And for more information on mindfulness, you can go to presentteacher.com. Still to come on this Fox 9 Community Connection special, back to school advice that we could all use. How to get some kids to sleep. It's a battle for many families. We're going to an expert for help next. And welcome back to this Fox 9 Community Connection Back to School special. It's a nightly battle for some families, and that's bedtime. What is a good time for us to get the kids settled in? Well, and just how many hours of sleep should our kids be getting at night? A lot of good questions there. Fox 9's Tim Blotz has an expert to break it all down.
Joining me now is Dr. Eric Hernandez, a behavioral medicine sleep specialist at Noren Neurologic Clinic in Abbott Northwestern. Thanks for being with us, because this is such a fascinating topic. If there's anything my wife and I have learned about parenthood, is that kids need routine and structure, and man, sleep is all about routine. You have to have it every night.
That is correct. If you allow your kids to have different schedules, they'll try and take advantage of you, and you have to make sure that you're the parent and that the kids are the children, and getting a routine that's regular is absolutely essential. If you don't have a routine, you're going to find that the kids will have varying amounts of sleep. They'll sleep at different times. That's going to cause a number of problems. One is there's no predictability. Kids, if they have predictability, will maintain the schedule, but they'll try and get away with things. Sleep deprivation happens like that. The kids don't get enough sleep. All kinds of problems happen when your kids don't have sleep. They look like they have ADD sometimes. They don't attend to things. They jump all over the place.
And that's a great question, because how closely tied is sleep deprivation or not having regular sleep to ADD?
It turns out that your brain recovers and repairs itself at night. It develops when you sleep. Your body repairs itself when you sleep. So if you don't have enough sleep, your brain doesn't work well. You haven't restored your memory. Sleep deprivation actually has been shown to influence memory. In kids, having a sleep disorder, such as apnea, periodic limb movement disorder, restless limb syndrome, or sleep deprivation, all can mimic the same symptoms of ADD, where they don't like to stay in the same place. where they can't really concentrate for a long time. They get tired and they want to do something else, and they just don't learn very well.
All the more reasons why they need that sleep at night. But how much are we talking about, especially per age group? Let's run down the sleep times that they should be getting every night.
Yeah. So when you're an infant, you need the most. You're growing. Sleep is the time for brain growth, brain development. It's the time for your body to grow, and in adults, it's time for your body to maintain itself, to stay healthy. Because of that, the younger the child, the more they need that. So the younger you are, the more you need. So infants can, it's quite variable, but infants can need 18 hours or more of sleep for those first several months. By the time you get to sleep age, it starts going down, and you need 9 to 11 on average by the time you're in that 4 to 5-year-old range.
We keep hearing about high school students, and especially middle school students, needing more and more sleep.
I
How much
definitely
are they
agree.
should be getting?
So between 9 and 11 when you start a grade school, and it starts going down gradually, and it's 8 to 10 by the time you get to high school. But only a third of our kids are getting 8 or more hours of sleep by the time they're in high school.
See, that's what I was driving at. They're not getting enough.
They're not getting enough, so they're not remembering their lessons as well. They're tired when they drive to school when they're teenagers. They have a really high chance of being in an accident, especially in the morning when their brain activity is low, since it's just starting up for the day.
Okay, this may be a touchy subject for a lot of families, but I know there are some parents who like to take away the smartphones and the tablets before the kids go to bed.
Definitely. The bright light and activating interactive things that happen with tablets, game consoles, that's going to wake your kids up more. So even if they obey you and go to bed, what's going to happen is they're going to lay there awake
they're going to be
thinking
working
about
on it all night long.
Exactly. So they're going to be sleep deprived. Part of it people do to try and get their children to obey them, and there's different parenting techniques to get your children to do what they need to. And my family uses a reward system. We give 5 stars for 1 hour of screen time. And actually what I did this week, I believe it or not, I said that if you guys can get ready, all completely done, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, get dressed, if there's any time between then and when I bring you to school, you can have screen time, because we don't give screen time automatically. They have been up this entire week, 45 minutes before they have to go. They are ready. They stand next to the bed. They say, Daddy, they're 5 and 6.
Good incentive.
Daddy, can we have screen time?
Good incentive. And great advice. Dr. Eric Hernandez, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for this Fox 9 Community Connection special. We hope your school year is off to a great start.